it is totally different about the situation and environment in 60s in Korea and the village situation in 21st century in now. So if this is made in appropriate way, and as you suggested, if it could be done as a small pilot project and then duplicated, probably I think this is very effective way to tackle the poverty issues in rural villages in developing countries and also boost the rural development. But if you just add the small things about the factors and about the more concrete ideas and a more realistic analysis, then probably this model will be fantastic. Thank you.
All right. I'd like to mention a little bit very briefly. Among many development performances in Korea, nothing is more controversial than Semaul movement. Some say that it is one of key factors which contributed a lot to rapid economic growth in Korea, but many do not agree with the opinion. And then Dr. Mang just mentioned about why you didn't add on, the why it has been successful in Korea. But I would like to ask you whether does it really successful in Korea? Because nowadays I found very interesting phenomena in Korean society. There exists a kind of generational discrepancy about this issue. Those who has experienced Semaul-운동 in their life, they really do not like that concept. But those who have never experienced Semaul, nowadays they become a lord of Semaul-운동, and then they become, the very strong advocate of Semaul-운동 as new tool for development, the efforts for other developing countries. So you have to mention any point in your dissertation because that it is very controversial even in Korea. Thank you.
Can I have a...
No, I'm sorry, we are out of time. I'm also a historically oriented political scientist, so I have lots of things to talk about, but I have to refrain that. Okay, please give the presenters a big hand. Thank you. The final paper of the contest, they are waiting for a long period of time, will be presented by Yang-Jae and fellow students from Handong Global University. The title of the paper is The Assessment of Millennium Development Goal 1 and Suggestion for Solution to Hunger and Malnutrition. Please welcome them with a warm round of applause.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ju-Hyun Lee, and I'm from Handong Global University. And our team is the last team to present for today. And just before I begin my presentation, I want to say that it was a great honor and pleasure for me to be standing here to present the paper that our team has worked on for the past few months. And also, it has been a great opportunity and a valuable time to hear from other students on the issue of Millennium Development Goal 1. And the topic of our presentation today will be on Millennium Development Goal 1, specifically focused on proposal of international cooperation model based on analysis of hunger and malnutrition and solution through life scientific approach. And let me begin my presentation by sharing a story on a mother tiger. Has anyone here heard of how a mother tiger teaches its cubs on hunting? A mother tiger feeds its young cubs at first dead animals, but after the cubs grow teeth and claws, the mother tiger feeds live animals whose legs are slightly hurt. Cubs with grown teeth and claws are trained to kill and hunt the live animals whose legs are slightly hurt by themselves. Can you imagine what would happen if the mother tigers continue to feed their cubs dead animals? Cubs would grow to be completely dependent on their mothers, unable to use their teeth and claws forever. And the way how mother tigers train their cubs on hunting today gives us lessons on how we should solve hunger and malnutrition issue of MDG 1. So please keep this story in mind throughout the presentation. Our presentation will first evaluate and analyze MDG 1. And then we will seek solution taking life scientific approach as appropriate technology. And then an international development cooperation model will be proposed. And lastly, a real case will be presented. Through many cooperative projects among the United Nations, its member countries, and NGOs, MDG has been showing a visible and a positive progress since it has been adopted in the year 2000. And as we reach the deadline for MDGs in 2015, the year 2013 is an appropriate time to not only evaluate the present situations, to analyze the causes of failures in some goals, but also to show directions for post-2015 MDGs that can successfully encompass the success and the failures. And MDG 1, which aims for poverty and hunger reduction, has 3 specific target goals. And the first 2 target goals, Target A and Target B, focus on eradication of extreme poverty. And the last goal, Target C, focuses on eradication of hunger. And MDG 1, out of the 8 goals, is the most important goal in guaranteeing the right to live for the people in developing countries. So what is the outcome of Target A? According to the Millennium Development Report published in 2013, in terms of Target A, most regions except for Sub-Saharan Africa and Western Asia are close to achieving this goal. And even excluding China, which has shown rapid development, most developing countries are close to achieving this goal by the deadline of 2015. And in case of Target B, even though overall employment rate has decreased, Target B has shown qualitative growth due to increase in the minimum wage. On the other hand, what outcome do we see in Target C? Statistically, the ratio of undernourished people is gradually falling, which indicates a high possibility of Target C being successfully achieved by the deadline of 2015. However, this result is due to a sharp decrease of undernourished people in Southeast Asia. Other regions except for Southeast Asia are not close to achieving this goal. Moreover, 870 million people, which is equivalent to 1 out of 8 people, still do not have access to basic nutritional meals. Furthermore, malnutrition holds greater problems. Children do not grow and suffer from many illnesses. In most developing countries, the ratio of underweight people has fallen, but the ratio of stunting is still high. And children suffering from stunting cannot easily recover and suffer from other illnesses as well as low academic achievement. And chronic nutritional imbalances in developing countries have 2 major causes. First is the lack of biodiversity and ingestion of nutrient-poor imported food. Despite of the continuous food aid by the international society, food aid is still not sufficient in most developing countries. So from this, people in developing countries live based solely on 1 or 2 staple foods, which causes severe malnutrition, such as lack of micronutrients and essential amino acids. And second is the problematic food aid system. Normally, severe hunger can be treated through RUTF, which stands for Ready-to-Use Therapeutic Food. However, in terms of sustainable food aid, system that can enable people of developing countries to independently resolve hunger and malnutrition issues should be established. However, dependency on the current food aid system is a major obstacle in resolving nutritional imbalance in developing countries. The major cause of hunger in developing countries lies on dependency on limited food supply. So how can we contribute to solving this problem? In order to resolve nutritional imbalance issue in developing countries, following food standards including appropriate nutritional, cultural, and economical values are needed. And sustainable diet is a key concept that meets these needs. And the next presenter will further explain the concept.
Hello, my name is Jae-Sing Yang. the second presenter of this presentation. I'd like to share ideas on solving hunger and malnutrition issues in MDG 1. The concept of sustainable diet may seem somewhat abstract, but it can become a practical and applicable through food microbial technology. Especially, I can strongly assure fermentation are the most relevant technology that can actualize sustainable diet. Then, what advantages are there in using fermentation? At first, fermentation improves nutritional value of food. Protein and amino acid absorption were enhanced by reducing anti-nutrient factors in food materials. During the fermentation, some microorganisms can produce micronutrients such as vitamins and minerals. Secondly, fermentation allows biodiversity on food. From one raw material, various foods could be produced with metabolite of microorganisms, such as lactic acid, alcohol, and acetic acid. Also, fermented food has a long storage period and has a low possibility of contamination by other harmful microorganisms. In addition, advantage of fermentation is not an artificial process, but rather an environment-friendly process. Fermentation can take place easily at home. Also, it can lead to sales of fermented food, which can contribute greatly to local economic and health development. Lastly, probiotics, which are beneficial microbes in fermented food, strengthen host immunity and treatment of diseases by altering gut microbiota. According to a recent study, probiotics and human gut microbiota now guide us into new direction of disease caused by nutritional imbalance. Look at this picture. In this study, two different types of bacteria was transplanted into rats. One, bacteria in a healthy child gut microbiota, and the other one, bacteria in child gut microbiota who was diagnosed with kwashiorkor. When the rat was fed a general Mammalian diet and EDCF, whatever they ate, signs of undernourishment were detected in rat who was transplanted bacteria of child with kwashiorkor. This study indicates that the fundamental cause of kwashiorkor was not insufficient diet, but unhealthy gut microbiota. In order to materialize sustainable diet based on fermentation, we suggest the following cooperation model. In this model, participation of regional partners are required for finding and recovering traditional harvest resources and fermented food, not nutrient-poor important processed food, which is current staple food of developing countries. Donor countries, advanced and sustainable fermentation technology will facilitate sustainable development through standardization and scale-up and guaranteeing food safety. This will in turn lead to identification of new beneficial microorganisms and development of diverse food. Not only providing solution to nutritional imbalance issue of developing country, but also to health and immunity issues in developed country. Then what are the roles of United Nations and other multilateral organizations? other multilateral organizations should plan and design these models. These organizations should act as a bridge between countries that need to food development, not food ration, and countries that has appropriate technology. This interaction can lead to exchange of manpowers, natural resources, and microorganisms. Moreover, reproduction of successful models will further expand these activities. Many projects have been implemented as a base for international development. Among many projects, I wish to present a case of Project Cassava. Project Cassava was an EU-led project in which 3 European countries and the same number of African countries participated. As a result of this project, 3 PhDs, 4 MSc, 6 published journals, 2 HACCP manual and pilot plans were established. As a result, a women enterprise group which processed fermented cassava was established in Benin and Kenya. The significance of Project Cassava lies in that development of food, not mere distribution of food, not only boosts people's independence, but also contributes to sustainable development in terms of employment and health. For the United Nations, which pursues better future of mankind, post-MDGs should consider not only the ability of developing countries to support themselves independently, but also mutual growth of donor countries and response countries. Also, most importantly, the environment and survival of the earth. International cooperation regarding development of sustainable diet based on fermentation will become a method of international cooperation that can be independent resolution of hunger and malnutrition issues in MDG 1, like the mother tiger's training. With this, I put an end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Oh, congratulations. That was really, really interesting and a very strong case for kimchi as well. It was really, really good, well-structured, very logical, going up from right at the top to the strategic overview down to some really solid practical examples. I like the cassava project. That was very, very good. I definitely thought that was very well-structured. And a very good overview on the situation regarding hunger as well. Obviously, a couple of years left for the MDGs. It's still definitely within the realms of possibility to meet that sub-goal on hunger. So it's definitely not time to slack off on that, as you said, which is key. To add to your very solid set of statistics and figures, I think there's now roughly 100 million children, we're saying, that remain undernourished worldwide, in addition to the figures that you made. So, you know, the world is thinking about what's next, but we shouldn't take our eyes off the ball. It's a lot of people's well-being depend on it, and you put that across very well. I think, it just got me thinking a little bit. I was in Ethiopia throughout July, and I was doing working communications. I was doing a series of interviews, and there's some wonderful projects working, on agricultural transformation, whereby the WFP, the World Food Programme, and a whole load of other partners are working together to support smallholder farmers, linking them to markets, and bringing, securing their livelihoods and their crops, and also in the interim buying huge amounts of crops and feeding 14 million people with it in the interim to keep them going. So there's some wonderful work being done out there as well. Just one or two other thoughts. One final thought. Like the tiger story, even if it was a little bit brutal, but very, very nice. And just one last thing, because we're about to sort of wrap up, and you're the last one. I mean, I'm going to steal a slogan from a youth NGO, which is very good, and it's that. And they say that half of the world is under 25. That's a huge amount of positive energy, and and I've seen, you know, some wonderful positive energy and some really, really good, you know, practical and strategic, and intelligent ideas and aspirations here discussed by you guys and everyone else before today. So, congratulations on that, and you know, wish you the very best. Thank you very much.
As you're the last groups, I mean, we've had really fascinating presentation. It's each one focuses on one issue. All the MDGs are very important, but depending on background, some people see one issue as more important than something else, whether a hungry child is more important than an educated child, and so on and so forth. But you've touched on that and the relevance to other parts of the MDGs. Maybe one thing that you weren't aware of it is that recently also the UN, maybe 1 year ago, launched something called the Zero Hunger Challenge, because it is also recognized that the value of nutrition at a young age is very important, because children who grow up with malnutrition and stunted children, it not only affects their physical growth, it also affects their mental achievement in the future. And I think maybe you could have touched on that bit a little bit more. Overall, very good presentation. It's always good to include a narrative and a story. It just makes it more interesting in terms of presenting. The Zero Hunger Challenge, basically, let me sum it up, aims to have 100% access to adequate food all year round, zero stunted children who are less than 2 years old, all food systems are sustainable, and 100% increase in smallholder productivity and income, and zero loss or waste of food. And in a way, you've captured all of those, because when you spoke about fermentation or other methods of food preservation, you're also addressing the issue of waste and the issue of sustainability and the issue of contribution to nutrition. Overall, very well presented. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, judges. And please give a big hand to the last team. I have a very important announcement to make. In your name tag pocket, there is a ballot. This is ballot for this Best Presentation Award. So during this break, please mark just one team and put this ballot in the ballot box. There are 2 ballot boxes in front of this gate, in the back of this room. Okay? So we are going to have a break until 4:40, and then we'll have a development cooperation information session. Thank you very much.